we move on to talk about United. They have agreed a $50 million pound deal with PSG for Manuel Ugarte. This is a deal that we've been talking about for a little bit now. For PSG to make for Manchester United to improve the ranks in that midfield. We know the issue they had in their last season with Casemiro sort of having a down year in his career, and with Scott McTominay leaving the club, with Scott McTominay leaving the club, it almost allowed United to take the sort of next level in terms of being able to negotiate with Manchester City, or with Napoli. No, not Napoli. They're selling Scott McTominay to Napoli in terms of being able to take it to the next level in terms of their negotiations with PSG to sign Manuel Ugarte. Now let's talk about what Manchester United are getting. In Manuel Ugarte, they're getting a hard-nosed midfielder, physical, aggressive, being able to win duels, has athleticism to get around, to cover holes that maybe a fullback going forward might leave in defense, or be able to sit in between the center halves and do the dirty work in terms of defending as a number 6. But there's also enough quality there, enough ability to control the ball and dictate tempo that he can play in midfield, and he has good ball control, and he's a good balance in there as well in terms of having ability on the ball, but also having that physicality element that Casemiro just has it's gotten away from him. The athleticism, the physicality to be able to compete day in, day out in the Premier League is just not there for Casemiro. Now, Casemiro on the ball, in terms of being able to dictate tempo and being able to control with possession, he's still a very, very good player. The talent, the quality is not going to go away in terms of being able to control the ball. But as you age, the athleticism will go away. And that's what Manuel Ugarte will give this Manchester United team that Casemiro just can't anymore. We saw Casemiro last season, even when he was playing center half, he just defensively, he can't get around the way he used to. He was never really the most mobile in general, or most physical, more athletic sort of holding midfielder, but he was able to do just enough. He was able to get in passing lanes. He was able to, provide sort of protection between the center halves as with his sort of nasty nature, his physical nature. He doesn't have the ability now anymore to even get around and put in a nasty tackle, to save a counter-attack opportunity. He's just athletically not there to compete. Manuel Ugarte, he can. And really, I'd like to see how Erik Ten Hag will fit him in there initially, with the fact that will he try to play him with Casemiro, because they kind of one will provide more the defensive role to it, the other will play the holding, the other in Casemiro, he will control the ball, dictate tempo, be the man that receives the ball off the back line and really, sort of springs an attack, while Ugarte could just sit there next to him and just do a lot of the defensive work and athletically get around, and also be part in controlling with the ball, because he does have that ability, and just play Manu alongside with them, which will force, United to sort of sacrifice an attacker, because they're not going to get rid of Bruno Fernandes. So, right, you're going to have to get rid of one of the front three and kind of play with the more narrow attack. Or, the other option that United has is this, you sort of, move Casemiro to the bench. You kind of use him as a bit part player, someone to bring in an experience, try to see games out, kind of what Luka Modric was for Real Madrid last season, what he will continue to be for Real Madrid this season, and play Ugarte in there with Kobbie Mainoo, because Ugarte and Kobbie Mainoo, that's really going to be the midfield partnership for Manchester United for the next, 5, 6, 7 years or so, in the next decade, to be honest, with Ugarte. He's only 23 years old, Manuel Ugarte, despite this being really his second move to a big club, going from, going to PSG and now going to United. It is his second move, but he's only 23 years old, and we know Kobbie Mainoo, he's essentially, or not essentially, he's a teenager, being 19 years old, you kind of have that midfield partnership basically for the next decade. Now Ugarte, he had 25 appearances for PSG. At PSG, he was one of in his early in the 2023 season. He was decent in his first 4 League One games. He won the UNFP Player of the Month, or he was a nominee for the Player of the Month. He played really, really well in terms of being able to recover the balls for PSG in midfield. But after those first couple of months in the season, Manuel Ugarte, he slowly started losing his place sort of in the PSG team, with Luis Enrique. And there was also, when he lost his place as a starter, and there was also reports in the media that Luis Enrique, didn't really like his sort of style of play, and Ugarte would, basically become a substitute for PSG for the rest of the season. The only time he'd really start the game is when players really needed to rest, and yeah, that's the interesting part of this. Manuel Ugarte, him with coming to United is not that he failed at PSG, because he only been there for 1 season, but he didn't light it up at PSG, and he was a sort of bench player for PSG, which maybe you could just put just wrong time, wrong club, wrong time with Luis Enrique coming in at PSG. He maybe just Luis Enrique did not like that sort of player, but it's still, whenever a player doesn't really take the next level, moving on to a big club, and he's already moving after 1 year, it makes you think, what is the problem there? Not saying there's any problem in terms of the player's attitude or desire or anything like that. I'm not trying to say that, but in terms of, is there limitations in terms of the quality of the player? Now, I will say, in defense of Manuel Ugarte, you could probably argue it's just the wrong place, wrong time, when you look at the fact that he was able to play for the Uruguayan national team. Now, the Uruguayan national team also has a strong influx in midfielders with Federico Valverde, De La Cruz, Ugarte, Rodrigo Bentancur, who actually was on the bench, De Arrasqueta. They have a strong, core of midfielders, and he was a starter, and he was a pivotal part in that, midfield, playing next to Valverde, doing a lot of the dirty work also for Uruguay. So, it's really, it's something I'm not hesitant about it. If I'm trying to analyze this, I'm not hesitant about calling this a good signing. I think it is a good signing. I think there is real quality there, but it does make you think, of his, he's a $55 million player. He's only 23 years old. Why are PSG allowing him to leave, this early? Why wasn't he a main first team sort of player for PSG? Is it really surely because he didn't fit? Because look, there is quality there. And you have to say, there also has to be some sort of ceiling there. If you're looking at it and he's not able to start, for PSG, there is a little bit of a ceiling there that clearly Luis Enrique saw. Instead, it led Luis Enrique to playing Fabiano Ruiz and the youngsters at Emery, Vitinha, which is more quality players in terms of technical ability, close control, also have abilities to big out ball, and they're 3 really, really good players, but they're all, sort of different players than Ugarte. But what I do think with Ugarte is his physical nature. His physical nature to him will make him a great player for the Premier League, because he has physicality. He will be able to handle the physical, what's the word? He'll be handled the physicality of playing in that midfield in PSG. He'll do the dirty work. I wouldn't say he reminds me of Roy Keane, but that's high remark. But he's not afraid to do the dirty work like Roy Keane will do. He's a Uruguayan. He's a prototypical Uruguayan, prototypical South American midfielder. So I think this will be a good signing from Manchester United. I do think he does have some quality there.